Hello, everybody. Welcome to show number 2 of Absolute Paranormal Disclosure. I'm Eddie Abbott, and we're going to get back into the deep dive. Yesterday, we did a show. We're talking about hidden alien bases and remote viewers, seeing those alien bases. Now, if you're not familiar with remote viewing is it's almost a psychic ability that we all possess. But when you put a psychic behind the desk and asks them to remote view, you're going to get some amazing results. And that's what we've gotten over time. And Project Stargate was one of those projects that revealed to the government that this remote viewing thing is real and it works. And we can see things, we can spy on the enemy. It's really a good thing, right? So the unfortunate thing is when they see something the government doesn't want them to see, what happens to the remote viewer? Like in Pat Price's instance, he was poisoned. He's dead. I mean, so yesterday we went over that in case you weren't here. Pat Price is a really gifted psychic, and they brought him on board at the SRI, which is the Stanford Research Institute, and they wanted to see if he could remote view 4 different locations, which he did with complete accuracy. And what he had saw was amazing. So the CIA came in and swooped him up. Then he worked there for less than 4 months. And once he saw that aliens and humans were working side by side at Mount Hayes, Pat Price was dead. He was poisoned, no autopsy. They claimed it was a heart attack, but then they didn't even bother to call his wife, and they cremated him. Now, we have to understand the CIA was brought about in September of 1947. Roswell happened July 1947. So you get the CIA that doesn't operate in the United States are not supposed to have anything on our soil happening. They're just not an agency for America. They work for our country and other countries. But here's the interesting thing. The CIA was brought about because we recovered an alien craft in Roswell, New Mexico. The United States, being ahead of the game, wanted to make sure that if any other craft came down around the world, which they knew had in the past, especially Germany, they wanted to be on scene of any crash recovery. So the CIA, you're smart people, they're within the borders of other countries, and their job is to, whether we want to believe it or not, their job is to go out and make sure that the United States gets the craft. They do other things, obviously. They can't just do that kind of work, but their main purpose, believe it or not, like I said 2 seconds ago, believe it or not, is to make sure that any downed alien craft is recovered by the United States of America. If you think about the way they go about this, it's to make sure or to ensure other countries don't get that technology. It's a game, it's a race. We're racing for technology. I've told you before, the the player with the most toys wins the game, kind of, right? You play Monopoly, you got the most properties, you are the winner. Well, when it comes to these alien craft, it's no different. We are trying desperately to crack the code within these craft, and that's the gravitational field they create. Among other things, we've already figured out how to do some of the things, but we do work hand in hand with aliens. But they're not about to give the monkeys the key to the city and let them go crazy. So if they're giving anything to us, it's going to be minute. Not to pacify us, we're doing some of the heavy lifting for them as far as whatever they're doing underground on the planet. So they're using us, they're using our DNA, they're using all kinds of stuff that we don't even look at as a gift that we're giving them. We look at what they're giving us as a gift. So basically, the way I see it, it's like us. You remember how you had the flip projector? You could flip like slides and put them on the wall and watch your pictures. Well, that'd be like us going to another planet and giving a primitive species that technology, and they would think they had the greatest thing in the world. This is the most advanced thing there possibly could be, and to us, it's nothing. So I believe the aliens are giving us nothing. Whatever they're giving us is not a threat to them. There's no species that's going to give away anything threatening. They're not going to put themselves in a position to be conquered, beaten, blown up, anything. So they're prepared for whatever we have coming. They have networks, all kinds of good stuff. So they watch our internet. They know what we're saying because honestly, they do speak our language. I worked in intelligence. We have intelligence officers that monitor their communications and they do speak their language. We got our language from them. The story of Babylon was a splitting up of all races on the planet, but we're not racist, so I don't want to use that word, all tribes. And the familiar tongue between all tribes was removed, and our languages were scattered according to biblical text. But if you look at it through the eyes of today, I think what happened was there was different species of alien that came here, and they've been here. It's all depicted in the hieroglyphs and all the teachings of the Mayans and Aztecs. It, they've been here. They were here. Our Native Americans have got petroglyphs in the desert, and it's a story that's created not for entertainment, but for historical reason. So we need to look at it more in a historical text than an interesting, oh, those primitive people, they had no idea what they were talking about. They know more about this than we do because, frankly, it can't be a global thing back then if there wasn't technology to spread the word. How did pyramids get on every continent in our world? There's multiple pyramids that are everywhere. We don't just come up with building designs like that and not communicate with one another. There had to be some kind of inspiration. There had to be some kind of teacher involved to get this done. So humans aren't looking in the right direction. What we're looking at is the craft, and that's all we're really kind of focusing on because that's what they kind of want us to focus on, so that we don't point our attention to places that are more severe and sinister. So we're going to get into a little bit of Project 8200 today. Project 8200 was done with remote viewing, and Skip Atwater was part of that as well. And Skip Atwater is an Army intelligence official, and they had a man come in named Joe McMoneagle. Now, Joe McMoneagle was the viewer that we're going to focus on today. And Joe McMoneagle is still alive. You can look him up, and I want you to look him up. Very gifted. I mean, his rate of accuracy is one of the highest ever. I mean, him and Pat Price, Ingo Swan. I mean, you put certain people into a discussion about this topic, and those are the main names that are going to come up as far as remote viewers go because of the accuracy they had, no matter what situation or scenario or target there was, they're very accurate. So they brought Joe McMonagle in on this project 8200. Write it down, do your homework, read about it. So you have your authority figure in the project, which is Skip Atwater. Then you have your remote viewer, which is Joe McMonagle. Now, McMonagle spelled McMoneagle. So, in case you need to look him up, that's how you spell that last name. So they brought him in. So now we have Project 8200 underway. Target number one. So they give you the target. We went over this yesterday. There's a blank envelope. It might have numbers on it. It might have a symbol on it, and that's it. So the remote viewer is supposed to look at this, get their feeling from whatever's there, and tell their leader what they see, their handler, whatever you want to call them. But they give you a blind sealed envelope. All viewers get it. So none of them know what's in there. They just get like a control number. So in target number one, we are talking now Joe McMoneagle. And what he saw was a desolated area. It was filled with ice, water, there was land. There was a huge mountain range, he said, over 1,000 miles long. Now you know where we're going with this because we were over this yesterday, right? The target was deep within that mountain range. Now we're talking Mount Hayes, Alaska, again, as target number one. And what he has seen was ice, right? Water, land, mountain range over 1,000 miles long. And that's where we're putting us right where we need to be. So we know that Joe McMoneagle is seeing the right location. Not a coincidence. He has no idea what's going on. So he said, with deep within that mountain range, he sees tubes, pipes. I'm reading what he said here because I wrote it down. Then there's masses of electronics, grid work of some kind, and it's this. Now I'm going to quote him. He says, "It's an emitter of some kind, and he senses there's a great bit of power coming from this emitter, and the great deal of power and energy is used to run this emitter, and he's getting a low frequency feeling while he is in the mountain. So we have an emitter in Mount Hayes. He sees pipes, he sees wires, he sees circuitry. It's a grid, and there is a giant emitter. So we have an emitter in the mountain collecting all this energy. They're gathering energy and it's humming at a low frequency. So after that, he goes on to say, there's a great deal of power and a great deal of energy being used. I feel a low frequency feeling, and there's a huge ground grid within this area. Seeing large power input lines from a miniaturized nuclear power plant. It appears to look as if it were a miniaturized nuclear power plant within Mount Hayes. So, what are they doing with the power? What are they doing with the emitter? You get an emitter, and you obviously you collect whatever you need to collect to, whether it be a signal, whether it be energy, and you're going to transmit that. It's something that'll push whatever you need outward at very great distances. So we have a huge ground grid, and inside he said it was like an arena, a giant electronic arena within. So what are they doing with all this? He said there were large power input lines from the miniature nuclearized power plant and a power unit with other tubes buried in the ground, coils, tubes, under a dome. So there's a giant dome within the mountain, and all of this is inside of the dome. So he said that the emitter itself is pointed directly towards space. So they're obviously collecting energies, and whatever they're doing, and they're pushing it through this emitter, and they're shooting it out to space at a target. It's hard. He said it was hard to find words to describe what he was seeing, but that's exactly what he was seeing there. Okay. And I want to pause for a minute because I don't want to get into his target number 2, 3, or 4 yet. What I want to do, because I took a lot of notes, because I listened to a lot of remote viewers, and I did take notes on his session, and he had some really cool things what I wanted to share with you. And where did that go? We're going to get into that. Okay, so we're jumping back out of number 4. He's got 4 targets, which a lot of other remote viewers viewed as well. And after a session, he said, "This is real. It's really real, and I don't know what to make of it." So this is all off the wall to me, according to Joe McMoneagle. Of these targeted areas, it's like different spokes in a wheel. And that's a bad example, but it's like a different part of a jigsaw puzzle, and each one is dormant. So basically, these bases are sitting there, they're turned on, but they're dormant. They're waiting for instruction. But we do get point when he says they are collecting energy from the earth and transferring it into space to a target in space. There's a platform in space. And sensing and perceiving and emitting relay. Locations are integral part of the location. He gets a fixed orbital platform in space, fixed. And it's in an orbit, but it doesn't move. It's not going anywhere. There are no occupants now, and that was at the time of his session. He said, but there's a capability, it seems. Can't tell if it's occupied over there or occupied before delivery. So do they go to the space platform before the energy is sent to the space platform from the planet, from these locations on the planet? And that's the real question. What is going on? What are they getting the energy and what are they doing with the energy? He said it's fully automated. There are no occupants on this space platform, but it is visited. It runs on fully automated systems. And he was asked to describe what he sees when he sees the space platform. He said, in trying to go to the origin of the space-borne platform, I got a very old and a very new sensation. Like I got both sensations. It's like periods of time I'm talking about. I'm talking to equate the years, and they're not. And then he stops, pauses. He said, there's like I'm going from ancient to new, to ultra modern back to new. I'm flopping around in time. So that's probably pretty important. So the technology is new, but the space platform the technology is in and on is ancient. It's been there for a very long time. They ask the next question to Joe McMoneagle. So where is the space platform? He said the spaceborne platform is in a permanent fixed place. It's not rotating around the earth and it's not, and he pauses again. It's like it's fastened with a string to the earth. It never moves and it's way out there. So it has no decaying orbit. It is fixed. Then he elaborates. He said, also, there's more than just these 4 locations on Earth. I have an immense vision of seabed locations. I honestly believe that there are seabed locations of these things. Says that they're very old and have been here a long, long time. But what he was viewing was new. He couldn't understand that. I can't understand that either. I mean, I kind of get an idea what he's talking about. He said he uses the seabed location, use precise locationing, observation, relay, and navigation. So this is what these craft that we see are using their bases under the ocean. So we have a lot of information coming in from these remote viewers that most people would never have ever heard, right? Because you have to look past the rush hour traffic in order to see where people work. What do they do for a living? Why are they doing that for a living? What's the whole goal? Other than watching people drive around their vehicles, we do have to figure out why they're here. What are they doing? What do they have intended for our planet? What do they have intended for us? So he said his initial target at Mount Hayes felt very sinister. That something within the base and its mission and its goal was extremely sinister to humankind. So we're going to stop on that because that is what I wanted to follow up today. We're not going to have a 55-minute show today. What we're going to do is we're going to figure out Mount Hayes, Alaska. We've got all these missing people, right, in Alaska, all in and around Mount Hayes, Alaska. I know, well, there's things that I do know about missing people that I will share. That in the United States Army, we were aware of people that go missing all over. And we have an agreement, an exchange program, so to say. Technology for DNA, basically, is what it comes down to. We will give you X amount for X amount. So we are basically allowing our own people to be taken in exchange for a little bit more of the puzzle, a little bit more of the puzzle, a little bit more of the puzzle. They're not really giving us shit, right? They're giving us steps in a house that go up to a location that we probably will never reach. We either change our whole entire physics idea and learn that what we know about physics is not correct. It's only the beginning of the truth. Or we are never coming out of the mud, folks. We are mud bogging in a Jeep with bald tires. Hey, we had fun until we got to one point, now we're stuck. So we know Mount Hayes isn't a joke. We know the craft create a gravitational field around the craft, and they use this gravitational field to traverse water. They can go to space, they can go into air, and they can go through solid material. They can fly through mountains. They can fly right through solid rock. And we got to get a grip on the reality of that, right? And if we look deep enough, we're going to start seeing a lot of weird sightings. We need to start digging up the old sightings. And it's not, here's where I get pissed. Everybody gets hung up on the UFO thing. A UFO is a car for them. They're driving it around, okay? It's proof they're here, but this is not the story. Okay, we like to look at the UFOs because, hey, man, that's something we haven't seen, and it's exciting, it's scary, whatever you want to look at it as, but it's just a vehicle. We have got to figure out what they want. Why are they here? You know, it's not all about what's flying around the sky. It's what's under the ground. What's inside of that mountain, what's underneath those mesas out in the southwest. What is it all about? We have to figure that out. We have to do ourselves a little bit more justice as a species and become smarter about things that are very concerning. You know, this isn't a big game about what the UFO looks like and how is that cool. And, oh my God, did you see that? Okay, well that's all fun. It's all fine. It's all great. But it doesn't answer the question, what do they want? What are they doing? What are we doing? Yeah, we have got to figure out our place. We have to figure out what these people, creatures, whatever you want to call them, what do they want? What are they going to do here? You know, we got to figure this stuff out. Why are so many people going missing? Can there be 16,000 people missing in Alaska since 1980? How? How does that not concern the entire world? That should be a worldly thing where people are going, hey, man, time out. We understand people go missing all the time, but 16,000 people in a desolate area on the planet are missing. The most UFO sightings in the area where all these people are missing. When are the skeptics going to open their eyes and realize this is for real? In the Army, we had a division in the Cunha Tunnel called Otherworldly Communications. Now, the Cunha Tunnel, for those of you who do not know what it is a spying platform that we have in the ground on the island of Oahu in Hawaii. We put it there, World War II, buried it, made it look like a farm on top. And imagine us dumb apes being able to do stuff like that. What do you think a species a million years ahead of us can do under the ground? Now, we did this and nobody knew what was going on. How many bases are on planet Earth? And nobody knows what's going on. They're in the moon. They moved the moon into orbit. I can't remember. I'm going to find it for you guys. But there are ancient texts that say one day a round celestial body, bright, filled the sky at night and illuminated light back to the planet. The moon was placed into orbit and it was written down in ancient script, I believe out of Iraq, and I'm not sure if that's one of the artifacts we went to get, so that the human race didn't realize the moon was not a normal orbiting body created when the Big Bang happened. The moon is a hollow craft. Now you're dealing with species millions of years ahead of us. The enormity of craft that big, or base that big, to us isn't fathomable. We don't work on scale that big for anything. That's impossible as far as we can see it. Where do you build it? You obviously build it in space. You can't build it on a planet. So we need to start doing some deep diving into what's theirs, what's ours, where do we fit, what do they want. So we know everything's kind of goofy. I mean, there's like no rhyme or reason to the reality of the world that we live in. We like to sit around and we like to believe that, bingo night's a great night. And we're going to a baseball game or a football game or a concert, and that's the way the world is, right? Then you have the some with the religious beliefs that, oh, God's going to come and save us, but God doesn't save the children that are dying and suffering and murdered. And why? You have to ask yourself why. And I believe in God. Of course I believe. Do I believe Jesus? Of course I believe in Jesus, and Muhammad and Buddha, and you keep going. I believe they're real. Everyone's real, right? It's all real. They're all messengers. But here's what I don't get. God did not just create us. God never intended for us to be alone. I think what God has done is made schools of his planets that he created with his Big Bang, that he had the big idea what he wanted. So he created all of these worlds, and each world is a different school. We all have different colleges, different high schools that we go to. We learn different things. There's trade schools, there's technical schools, there's, school for every goddamn thing. So that's what the planets serve. His spirits he created that he shed from himself and gave free will. That's us. If you watch anything about near death experiences, or, what I want you to do, today's homework for you, go on YouTube, type in soul captured leaving body. And I want you to watch those videos. And you will see the proof that we are just this tiny, little tiny light inside the base of our spine behind our navel. And we operate this avatar through the spinal cord. And all the nerves that go through run through the soul, which is connected in there. And it's able to use that as a sensation for the reality that the avatar that we're in is in. So our brain is a computer and it interprets the world to our soul so that our soul has a better understanding of what's around it. And when that happens, you have the first couple of years of life that most people can't remember because your brain computer itself it's absorbing and it's absorbing. It's not an output system at that point. It doesn't even have an idea of how the language works fully. So the soul kind of is dormant and it's absorbing and absorbing until it acclimates itself with what's going on around it. Then we become part of the world that we're in, and we identify ourselves with the avatar that we're within. The avatar that we're within is the reality of this planet. It's not who you are. It's not what you're going to look like when you die. Because when you die, you just go back home and you're perfectly round sphere that sees 360 degrees in every direction, and you're filled with love and everything's positive. There's no bunch of virgins waiting for you for killing people on earth and all that bullshit. Man has made up some religions that have just destroyed the souls of man on this planet when we're just here to learn, to grow, to help one another. We're here to elevate ourselves in the echelons of heaven. One day we will have enough learning to get back to the source that we came from, and that's the whole goal. We're here to get knowledge God's absorbing that knowledge through our knowledge, through the aliens' knowledge. We're all part of one source, so we're all learning and growing and doing. And the source is learning and seeing and growing, and it's probably a euphoric feeling for our creator. All this sensation coming in all at one time. And that's what the reality of it is. Now, the physical world we live in, we have no goddamn clue what the reality is because it changes constantly. The laws of physics are wrong. We can't even get along with one. Black people don't like white people don't like black people, Chinese don't like Japanese. I mean, come on, man. Really, we're all human beings. We're all souls inside of avatars, like the movie Avatar. It's exactly what's going on. That movie was created because of the reality of the situation we're in. And Hollywood doesn't just make movies just to make movies. There are actual truths behind some of these sci-fi movies you wouldn't believe. They're they're spoon-fed a lot of information to create these movies. And the information they're spoon-fed is fact. Okay, so we have factual information making movies that we believe to be science fiction or fantasy. We're just softening up the human mind to accept things that are different around it. We are not here just to worship a God that put us here to learn, grow, and have fun and make up a bunch of mistakes and all that. We're not here to make up all those bullshit rules that don't exist and live in a way that we can't even enjoy life. A lot of people do that. They are so extreme, they can't even enjoy their life. So we have got to accept the fact that we are just one little tiny part of a creation. And we're sharing our reality we're in with other beings that right now don't believe we're ready for them. I don't believe they give two shits about us, to be honest with you, but they know that we're not ready. We can't even get over our own racial wars. And we are the dumbest people that believe that we are different races because we're not different races. We're one freaking race. A black person is not a different race from a white person. You have a different tribal background. You are a human. If I put a big white screen up and you stood behind that big white screen and I put a big bright white light behind you, everybody on this side of the screen is going to see a silhouette of what? A human being. They're not going to know what color or anything. I don't care if you got an afro. Oh, white people get afros. I've seen afros of many people. The hairstyle means absolutely nothing. 5 fingers, each hand, 5 toes, each foot. That's all matters, man. We are one species, one race. So quit saying, oh, that's racist. That's not racist. It's tribalist. When we have a tribal situation on the planet, how can we ever handle aliens? And don't think for a minute they don't know your social media. They don't see our TV shows or anything. They know everything about us. They're monitoring us. And they have technology that can monitor everything. They have tiny little orbs they send out to watch, like cameras that can go through walls. Look it up. Another homework thing. Look for orbs that travel through hard surfaces. Look, I want you guys, this is what I want you to do today. Go on YouTube, look up Stan Romeneck. Stan Romeneck. If you watch about Stan Romeneck, you're going to see actual alien beings that he has captured. He has got the most documented alien interactions of anyone on the planet. He can back it up. It's on video. He's being protected, to be honest with you, because he was starting to get a little worried and they were after him. But the more public he became, now you can't touch him. And that's the key. Become public, right? So Stan Romanek, do your homework tonight. I want you to check that out. I want in the comments, I want you to tell me what you thought about Stan Romanek's story and all of the video and photo evidence he has, not to mention phone calls, people calling him that It was impossible. I don't even know how he got some of these phone calls on phones that weren't even plugged in. The phones are ringing. Speakers are working in his house, and they're not even plugged in. You got aliens outside the window. He set cameras up. This is the guy. He literally, aliens, see, what people don't know. If you see like a UFO and then you see a flash, that means they have just been transferred from that craft to the ground. Usually there's a ring in the grass, probably around 6 feet around. And it's like some Star Trek shit that we know about in the military. So we always go out when we do investigations and sightings, you look for the ring. We're going to look for the discolorization on a building where the beam might have hit, because it literally will destroy any dirt, anything in its way. It cleans the entire area, but it also these patterns in the grass. And then when they leave, when beams have been seen leaving by thousands of witnesses, a big flash. It's instantaneous. So tonight, what I want you to do. Please go watch on YouTube about Stan Romeneck and let me know what you think in the comments. All right. Well, that'll do it for tonight. So we've enjoyed our topic on Mount Hayes, Alaska. For those of you that have done your homework on Mount Hayes, Alaska, do some Joe McMoneagle homework and some Stan Romeneck homework. Also, Project 8200, look it up. So until the next show, thank you guys.